Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going deep into the return of the osprey to Portugal. Fascinating story. And we've got a pile of annual reports, field notes, the works really covering years of this project.
Yeah.
So how'd they do it? How'd these scientists bring back these incredible birds, these fish-eating raptors? I mean, they were gone, right?
Yeah, they were gone completely. Early 21st century, ospreys had completely vanished from Portugal.
Wow. Okay, so no ospreys.
No ospreys. But this group of scientists, really dedicated from Sabio, that's the Research Center in Biodiversity and Genetic Resources at the University of Porto.
Okay.
They weren't going to accept this. They launched this huge reintroduction project in 2011.
11.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's when it all began. They just decided to bring them back.
Well, it wasn't just them. I mean, they had help. EDP, that's Energias de Portugal, and the ICNB, the Instituto de Conservação da Natureza e da Biodiversidade, they were all in on this.
Okay, so big team effort already. I like it. But reintroducing a species, that's got to be more than just releasing a few birds.
Oh, absolutely. You need a plan.
Yeah.
And this took serious planning. Think international collaboration. Finland and Sweden donating 10 to 12 young ospreys every year.
Every year.
For 5 years straight.
Wow. So they're bringing in all these birds. Okay, so why Portugal? Why not somewhere else? What made Portugal the place to be for these ospreys?
Well, they looked at a lot of different places, estuaries, coastal lagoons.
Right, those make sense.
Yeah, but they finally decided on Alqueva Dam.
Alqueva?
Alqueva. It had the right combination of things, that ospreys need.
Like what? Give me the rundown.
Okay, well, first, Alqueva. Tons of fish.
Food? Yeah, of course.
Lots of non-native species, too, like the Crucian carp. So plenty to eat, which for a fish-eating predator, that's vital.
Makes sense, yeah. So a well-stocked pantry.
Huh?
Check. What else?
Alqueva's huge. Lots of space. Plenty of areas for nesting.
Yeah, space to raise those chicks, right?
Exactly. And third, compared to those busy coastal areas, Alqueva was pretty quiet. Less human disturbance, which is really important, especially when they're trying to breed.
Makes sense. Little peace and quiet.
Yeah.
So they picked the perfect osprey spot.
Yeah.
But you mentioned hacking towers earlier. What are those exactly?
Yeah, the hacking towers. Think of it like, like a tower spirally built, and it's got these 4 compartments.
Okay.
Each one holds a few of those young ospreys flown in from Finland and Sweden.
So like a little osprey apartment building.
Yeah, sort of. Safe, controlled environment. They get used to the new surroundings before they're released.
Right. So what exactly did they do in these towers?
Well, they'd stay there for a while, like 20, 23 days, something like that. Getting used to the place, the sights, the sounds, practicing flying.
Oh, yeah, got to practice that.
Yeah, and getting used to the local food, which was really important.
Speaking of food, what were they eating? Like, was there a special osprey menu?
They were getting a variety of fish. Local fish. Fresh from the Alqueva reservoir. Good stuff.
Okay.
The scientists, they even adjusted how much food they got as they got bigger.
Oh, wow. They really had this whole thing planned out. Okay, but release day. I got to know, what happened? Were they like, see ya, tower? Or, wait, I'm kind of liking it here.
Probably a bit of both.
Well.
But, scientists, they love their data.
Of course.
So they fitted each osprey with a radio transmitter, basically, like a little tracker. So they could keep tabs on them, see how they were doing out in the real world.
It's like a little osprey GPS. That's cool. But I bet that tracking reveals some of that drama you were talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's just say not everything went perfectly.
Oh, boy.
There were challenges, competition, other birds, people sometimes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Ospreys and humans sharing the same space.
Yeah, that's bound to lead to some interesting encounters.
It did.
But any serious problems?
Well, there were a few close calls, especially with people fishing, And then there was P86.
P86.
Poor guy had a rough time. Multiple bone fractures.
Oh, no. What happened?
Probably a predator got to him.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay, so with all these challenges,
Yeah.
I mean, did any of these ospreys actually come back to Alqueva? Like, after their first migration, did any of them decide, you know what, Portugal, this is home?
That's a great question.
It is.
And the answer is, well, you'll have to wait for part 2 to find out.
Oh, come on. You can't leave me hanging like that.
Gotta keep you coming back for more.
All right, fair enough. All right, I'm back. You left me hanging with that cliffhanger. Did those ospreys, did they actually come back to Alqueva?
They did come back.
Yes, okay, so they came back.
And it gets better.
Oh.
They didn't just come back. In 2015, first successful breeding. Yeah.
Okay.
A pair, P23 and 9UW. They raised 3 chicks near Germania.
3 chicks. That's amazing.
It was huge. A real sign that, this project, it was actually working.
Yeah, it's got to feel good for those scientists. Seeing those little chicks, fledglings, taking off. So they just released them and hoped for the best. Or were they like helping out those new osprey parents?
Oh, they were definitely involved. Still helping out. Remember those artificial nesting platforms?
Yeah. To help with the whole nest collapse issue.
Exactly. Those eucalyptus trees, not exactly the sturdiest.
And those storks, right?
Oh, yeah, those storks. Always competing for space.
Yeah. So the platforms, that's smart.
So they put up these platforms all around Alcafa, gave the ospreys some prime real estate, like pre-built condos.
That's a good way to put it. Nice. So the platforms worked. That's great.
Yeah.
It's funny, sometimes with these projects, you learn things you didn't expect, like about the animals themselves. Did they discover anything surprising about the ospreys?
Yeah, actually. One of the things they noticed, the males, they were really, really faithful to their breeding grounds.
Oh, faithful.
Yeah, site fidelity, they call it. They would come back to the same spot year after year.
Wow. Like they were staking their claim. This is my spot, no vacancy.
Pretty much.
That's cool. So what about those estuaries, the ones where they put those platforms, beyond El Cueva? Did that work? Did they get any ospreys moving in there?
It was a bit of a mixed bag. Some ospreys showed up, checked out the platforms.
Okay.
But breeding, not as much as they hoped.
Oh.
Estuaries, they tend to have more people around, more activity.
Right. More hustle and bustle.
Yeah, and more competition for food. Lots of other birds, who like to eat fish too.
Yeah. So it wasn't as peaceful as El Cueva?
No,
Yeah.
not quite.
But still, it's good. They were checking out those estuaries, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it means they're spreading out, exploring.
That's true. It's a good sign.
So all in all, I mean, it sounds like things were going pretty well, but, no project's perfect. I'm sure there were setbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Were there any big obstacles they had to overcome? Or maybe even some sad moments?
There were definitely some tough times. Remember P86 with the bone fractures?
Yeah.
Well, it turned out those predators, they were more of a problem than they first thought.
Really? Oh, no. I was hoping P86 would be okay.
Foxes, mostly. Those were the main culprits. But they even saw an eagle owl attack an osprey.
An eagle owl? Wow, that's a big bird.
Yeah, it was pretty intense.
So what did they do? I mean, did they just let the predators have their way?
No. They tried different things.
Right.
They put those motion-activated sprinklers around the towers and the platforms. Even tried using predator urine.
Predator urine. Ooh. Okay.
Yeah. Tried to create a no-go zone.
So did it work? Did the urine scare away the predators?
It was a challenge, to be honest. Some things worked, some didn't. It was a constant battle.
I bet. But did any ospreys actually die from those attacks?
Sadly, yeah. A few. They found the remains.
Oh, that's really sad. But at least they learned from it, right? Figured out how to better protect the others.
Exactly. They took it seriously. Tried to adapt, to make things safer.
That's good. So amidst all that, they did have some wins, right?
Oh, for sure. Lots of wins. Remember P23 and 9UW?
Yeah, the first breeding pair.
They were amazing. They had like a ton of chicks year after year.
So did the researchers give those chicks names like Hope or Junior or something?
Officially, they had codes.
Yeah.
For tracking. But who knows? Maybe they had secret nicknames.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, they were watching those birds grow up. You
Yeah.
know? It's hard not to get attached.
Okay, but let's step back a bit. We've been talking a lot about El Cueva and those estuaries, but what about the rest of Portugal? Did they see any ospreys, moving into other areas, just popping up, making themselves at home?
That is a great question.
It is.
And the answer is, well, you'll have to wait for part 3.
Are you kidding me? Another cliffhanger.
I know. But trust me, it's worth the wait.
All right, I'm hooked. What about those ospreys? Were they just passing through, or did they decide to, settle down in other parts of Portugal?
Well, some of them, they weren't just tourists. They decided to start families.
Okay, so where were they finding these new homes?
One spot, really exciting, was along the Guadiana River.
The Guadiana?
Yeah, they found a breeding pair on a platform there.
Wait, but didn't we talk about the Guadiana before? I thought they were already working there. You're right, the lower Guadiana.
Yeah.
Closer to the coast. But this This was further upstream, way further.
Oh, okay. So the ospreys were what, like blazing their own trail?
Yeah, kind of. They were expanding their range on their own, following that river system.
Wow. So they were like rediscovering those old osprey routes, the ones their ancestors might have used. What about those other spots? You mentioned reservoirs, lagoons. Were there any ospreys starting families in those places?
There were some signs, some hints, but not as clear-cut as the Guadiana.
Right.
Like, they spotted a pair in the Algarve at a reservoir. They were even, doing a little courtship dance.
But no chicks.
Not that they saw. They never actually nested there.
Huh. Why not, do you think? What was wrong with the place?
Hard to say for sure. Maybe competition for nesting sites, or maybe not enough of the right kind of fish.
Yeah.
Those reservoirs, lagoons, they've got a lot of different birds, all, competing for resources.
Right. Ospreys aren't the only ones who like a good fish dinner. But still, I mean, they were checking those places out, right? That's got to count for something.
It does. It does. It means they're not just sticking to the familiar. They're branching out.
Exploring.
Yeah.
Yeah. So looking at the big picture, I mean, you've got the success at El Cueva, you've got ospreys moving into new areas.
Yeah.
Would you say they're officially back in Portugal?
I'd say so, yeah.
That's fantastic.
It's not just about how many birds they released or even how many chicks were born.
Right.
It's about, a self-sustaining population.
Yeah. So they're here to stay.
Exactly.
That's really amazing. What are the scientists focusing on now? I mean, what's next for these Portuguese ospreys?
Well, one thing they're looking at is genetic diversity.
Genetic diversity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All those original birds, they came from Finland and Sweden, right?
Yeah.
So they want to make sure the gene pool is nice and diverse.
So they're healthy, right?
Exactly. Resilient. And
Right.
they're also, working on habitat management.
So making sure they have good places to live.
Yeah, working with local communities, trying to minimize disturbance to the nesting areas, make sure there's enough fish for them to eat.
So they're creating like a good osprey environment.
Yeah, a place where they can thrive,
Right.
long term.
What about those platforms? Are those still important?
More than ever. The population is growing, so they need those platforms for nesting, especially, where there aren't a lot of good natural spots.
They're like prime osprey real estate.
Yeah, something like that.
You mentioned working with local communities. What does that look like?
Well, it's about education, outreach, helping people understand and appreciate these birds.
So they care about them, want to protect them.
Yeah. I mean, imagine kids in school learning about ospreys or local fishermen, proud that these amazing birds are back.
Yeah, it's a community effort.
Exactly. When people feel connected to something, it's more likely to succeed.
This has been so cool. I mean, it's really amazing to see how we can make a difference, if we put our minds to it. What do you hope people take away from this whole osprey story?
I hope they see it as a story of hope. A species disappears, but it doesn't have to be the end. We can bring them back.
Yeah, with science, with dedication, with working together.
Exactly. And I hope they realize that, even in a world with so many environmental problems, there are still good things happening. There's still hope.
I love that. And who knows, maybe one day one of our listeners will be, walking by a lake or a river, and they'll look up and they'll see an osprey soaring overhead, and they'll think, wow, that's amazing.
I hope so. That would be fantastic.
All right, everyone, that's it for our deep dive this week. Keep exploring, keep learning, and we'll catch you next time.